Moving on to our next story and our next guest. Organizations in many sectors have to implement multiple management system standards, and not only may they have to implement a management standard for quality like ISO 9001, but they may also have to cover environmental standards, occupational health and safety standards, food safety management standards, and so forth. And often these standards are implemented as standalone management systems with their own set of manuals, their own set of procedures and work instructions and forms and checklists, as well as their own process owners. The cost of implementing and maintaining these multiple standards is becoming cost prohibitive for a lot of companies, but there are a couple things going on right now that are going to help make implementing and maintaining multiple management system standards a bit easier. First, there is, some of you have heard of this, the high-level structure, or HLS, that ISO is imposing on all new management system standards. This is a common structure that all new management system standards will share. And then there are software tools that allow companies to create what's called an integrated management system. And here to talk about both of these things is Chad Kymal, President and Founder and Chief Technology Officer, sorry about that, of Omnex. Hello, Chad.
Hi, is this Dirk or Mike?
Yeah, this is Dirk. You're talking to Dirk. Mike's out today. Sorry about that.
No problem, Dirk.
Hey, Chad. So briefly, before we get, for those of our listeners who may not be familiar with it, just kind of briefly describe the high-level structure that ISO has included in as a requirement for their new management system standards.
Absolutely, Dirk. Dirk, one of the things I'd like to just start out by saying, this is generally for people who are really involved with standards. They're calling the Annex XSL the most important event since ISO 9001. So why are they calling it the most important event? It is going to have far-reaching implications, not just in ISO 9001 or ISO 14001 EMS or the ISO 45001, which is a new OSHA 18001, but it's for every new management system standard from 17025 to you name it. And what does this high-level structure do? It makes the table of contents, that's the best way I can say it, it makes the table of contents look the same in every management systems going forward. So, Dirk, some of the things that the management system standards have, hang on one second, let me find my cheat sheet here. Of course, it'll have a scope, normative references, terms and definitions, well, that's the same. But it'll have a common context of the organization. And by the way, in that context of the organization, they'll also have what they call interested party expectations. Every one of the standards will then have leadership. Every standard will have planning, will have support, will have operation, and so on.
And so, does this mean then that because this common structure, because you have this common structure, if your company had to be ISO 9001 registered and let's say ISO 14001 registered, that you could use this same structure to kind of build both standards or build into your requirements for both standards all within one document, that sort of thing?
Dirk, very good question. So before I answer that, let me tell you what 99% of the companies have today. When I visit these companies, they have what I call a standalone management system for the quality management system. I just won't say ISO 9001 because many of your listeners may be automotive or aerospace or, many different flavors, ISO 13485, medical devices. So the QMS, they have a quality manual, they have procedures, they have work instructions, forms and checklists just for the quality management system. Then they have an identical standalone system for the environmental management system. They have though it's not required, they'll have an EMS manual, many of them do. They'll have procedures, work instructions, forms, and checklists. They have a standalone one for ISO 14001. and so on. I mean, today companies are faced with, many people have IT standards, 27001. Many companies have to do AS 9100 and medical devices or automotive. So the short answer is, suddenly companies will be able to see that these standards are all asking for very similar kinds of things, Dirk, and they can implement what we call integrated management systems. That's why this high-level structure is so important.
And so when you talk about, I mean, you kind of introduced it there, so you introduced the topic of an integrated management system. How does that work? I mean, is this simply a matter of identifying those processes that are duplicates and then eliminating the duplication? I mean, what is actually going on within this integration?
Yeah, let me do a couple of things to just tell you. So I think this is the era of the integrated management systems. In fact, for Quality Digest, I wrote an article in I think 2005. It's still a very popular article, and we're asked for that article over and over again. And it was about integrated management systems. So you could do integrated management systems at any time. And at that time, what we did is we integrated ISO 9001 and 14001. Okay, but with this new Annex SL and the common high-level structure, it is going to be one of the very important drivers of integrated management systems. So we identified three other drivers that's going to, create this need in the marketplace. Of course, the second is what I call the proliferation of standards. And why do we have so many different standards? Really, the standards are either being driven by the market or driven by the customer. And the idea that companies are abiding by a certain minimum level of standards and management systems really, gives a lot of confidence to the market and to the customer. Let me explain what I mean by confidence to the market. So one very, important incident happened, which is really for those of us, and I'm talking to you from Michigan, that affected the automotive market here is the Toyota incident, in terms of the braking system. And that led to a standard called ISO 26262, functional safety. Whether they will consider this a management system standard or not, we have to wait to tell. But what I'm talking about, the proliferation of standards. The second event, well, there are many events, so more than one event, but you can imagine another big driver into the proliferation of standards really is the Sony break-in. So what does the Sony break-in tell every large company? They better put very high IT levels, IT security. So suddenly a new set of standards are going to come into being. And we're seeing it actually even at a country level, Dirk. In fact, the country of Dubai has set a set of standards for all the businesses in Dubai. So anyway, the second point I wanted to make is proliferation of standards. Third is, with this proliferation of standards, our implementation and maintenance costs for the standards are going to go up. And the fourth is, companies have very far-flung supply chain. And a lot of the companies we deal with are global companies, and which we call the challenge of the enterprise. All four of these drivers are going to, help or bring in and usher in integrated management systems. So,
and Chad, I'll just jump in right now because we're running out of time. But if you want to know more about implementing an integrated management system and how that works and how you can use the HLS and software and so forth to bring all of your management systems together, integrate them. Chad Kymal will be leading a webinar next week, implementing ISO 9001:2015 using integrated management systems and enterprise-wide quality software. He'll be doing this with Quality Digest. I'll be moderating, and this is next Thursday, June 4th, 2015 at 2 p.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. Pacific. 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. So be sure to sign up for that. You can just click the link to the story below the player page down there.